One review. Book one on is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He's the author of the book Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes. No other than Mr. Andy Dietrich.
Thank you for the introduction, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Andy, and can you please introduce more about yourself?
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Andy Dietrich. I am a German-born, first generation to the United States. I'm an immigrant. Moved here when I was 14. I spent a couple years in Alaska. If you want to hear that story, we can definitely talk about that too. At 19, I joined the U.S. military and was enlisted for a couple years, and I was in Southern California for that stint. And then after I got out of that in the early to mid 2000s, I moved to Las Vegas. I've been here ever since. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to write a book, and that's where we're here today.
Las Vegas, indeed. Mr. Andy, what inspired the title Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes, and how does it tie into the themes of your stories?
Sure, thank you. So I think so that the phrase came about because I've used it a lot in my lifetime. I think it's a different way of phrasing something along the lines of well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions, right? So the book is a very lighthearted approach to my life and the silly things I've got myself into and sometimes out of using my big mouth. There is some more serious topics as well, where I kind of discuss some opinions, some unpopular opinions, and some other things that I've kind of conjured up in my head over the last couple of decades. If you know me, it definitely is a book that definitely I would have written. Right, there's a lot of stories that make you kind of go wonder, why did you say that, or what made you think that that was a good idea. Again, it's a lighthearted approach to my life, chronicles my mishaps, but also has some more introspective moments that I think people can take something away from.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Andy Dietrich. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. How do you balance humor with deeper lessons about growth and consequences in these tales?
Good question. I think that, a healthy approach to any situation is being able to learn from your mistakes, but I also think that humor, especially if personally anyway, I think dark humor and appropriate humor has a way of really allowing you to cope with situations, right? Things that people shouldn't be laughing at. I find sometimes humorous, sometimes not in the most appropriate setting. But I also mean no harm by it, right? So if you read the book, if you know me, you know that I like to poke fun, but I never want to make someone feel like they're the butt of the joke. Never want to embarrass anyone, never want to hurt anyone. And I think that comes through in my writing and my opinions, right? I like having a good time, but never at the expense of others.
Yes, indeed. And which story best encapsulates the book's central message about friendship and social blunders?
Social blunders. So I'll share a story of one thing I did for my little brother Josh. He's one of my most favorite humans in the world. He was deployed to Afghanistan for a good little while. He was part of the U.S. Army, and he was sent over there as part of his deployment. And he told me one time as we are having a call that the whole entire country is dry. You're not allowed to have, you're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to have possession of liquor, because against it's a dry country, and you're supposed to adhere to those countries' laws, which makes perfect sense. And he was made a comment about that. And then I thought, well, maybe I can help him that a little bit, because he also mentioned that he missed the smell and the taste of bourbon, of a good whiskey. He also mentioned that any package that you send anyone overseas is subject to be X-rayed. So any kind of contraband, any things that they shouldn't be receiving, should be caught by the X-ray machines and will be, confiscated, and just make sure that people don't receive things they shouldn't be receiving. Well, I kind of rubbed my two brain cells together and I realized that, well, X-ray machines do a lot of great things, but one thing they cannot do is X-rays through certain material. One of those materials is the lining of a coconut water bottle, right? The paper cartons that coconut water comes in. So, in my infinite wisdom, I decided to take a tall coconut water plastic or paperish box bottle, and I decided to open it from the bottom, drain out the actual coconut water, and then shove into it a plastic bag filled with bourbon, with whiskey bourbon, to then send to him with a bunch of other miscellaneous things like playing cards and magazines and other innocuous items. Um, Sent that to him, and it was received by him. Now, of course, I didn't put my actual, my actual name on the sender's address, but I knew it came from Las Vegas, so he knew it was from someone that he knew here.
Mhm.
So then when he received it, he told me the story that he didn't know who the person was. I think I named it Amy something, some random person's name, and
Mhm.
he was wondering first who this person was, sending him random things like playing cards and magazines, outdated magazines from like a year ago, and then also a bottle, or rather a carton of coconut water. He kind of put it to the side, didn't think much of it, and then one day he decided to open up the coconut water to drink it, and then quickly realized there's something else going on with it. And then he kind of put two and two together once he realized there was a plastic baggie inside of it with some good bourbon. He definitely appreciated that for what it was worth. However, he also knew that the next day they were going to get their barracks room inspected, so it was in his best interest to finish all the liquor
The
that I sent him.
bourbon.
Of course, he paid for it the next day with a hangover, but I think overall it was well worth the cost.
It's worth it, as they said.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the characters and relativity of the book. Which character do you think readers will relate to the most and why?
So pretty much all the stories revolve around me and my happenings. This one particular story I just told you centers around Josh, but really all the other stories center around me and my events. But I think that overall, I'd like to think that I'm a pretty relatable guy. I'd like to think things through. Sometimes I do act without thinking and get myself into some hot water. But like I said earlier, I'm not out to hurt anyone. I'm there to have a good time, with or without anyone else around. I like to enjoy life for what it has to offer. I like making mistakes and learning from them. So I think overall, I hope that my silly stories, which is the first half of the book, people can at least enjoy for the entertainment value. Then the second half of the book are some more serious topics that I think, at least on a certain level, people will be able to connect with and go, huh, that's a good point, or huh, I can see it from that point of view, or maybe I learned something today.
Indeed. So, how do you craft characters who make questionable choices but still remain likable or redeemable?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I craft any characters in the book. Again, it's all my personal stories that all happened to me, right? I think it's just a matter of understanding the human element of any situation, understanding that the people around you have family, have friends, they have feelings, right? They all want to go get a good night's sleep. They all want to enjoy their off time with friends and family around them. Maybe they're like, going to the movies. I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to relating to the people around you and realizing that everyone around you is a human being with feelings, with fears, with worries, with aspirations, with hopes, right? We're all just in this big experience together. So make the best of it and make it a little bit easier for the person next to you.
Yes, make the best of it. How do you inject how do you inject humor into situation where characters are facing the consequences of their actions?
I think overall the stories that I portray have a lot of humor underlying the actual story. I try to leave each story with kind of a positive note or a positive spin. There are definitely some stories that are a little more heartfelt, some trouble I've gotten myself in, but I think they all portray a lesson learned at the end of the story, right? Again, there are no serious stories. And when I say serious, no one got hurt, no one got in trouble, no one got arrested, even though we were close a few times. At the end of the day, it's just having a good time with your friends, having a good time in life, and learning from those mistakes that you should be making along the lines.
Yes, learning from the mistake itself, and don't be afraid to commit mistake, people,
Absolutely.
because you will learn from it. Let's talk about the themes of friendship and growth. How do your stories explore the line between harmless mischief or damaging behavior in friendships?
Yeah, I think. I mean, obviously damaging. That's a pretty heavy word, and I hope that none of the stories that I portray that ever comes across. That was never my intention, right? Mischief, I think, is a good way of putting it. Social misdemeanors. I think that that wraps up the or that kind of encapsulates the direction of the book quite nicely. I think friendships are one of those things that the phrase that says the grass is greener on the other side. Well, you can also counter that with, how about the grass is greener where you water it, right? And friendships need maintenance too, right? You can have those friends that you don't talk to for a day, a month, a year, and nothing changes, and those are established friendships. But I think a friendship, just like a work relationship, just like a romantic relationship, take work, they take time, they take maintenance. And I think that understanding that, just because you think a certain way and just because you have a certain preference doesn't necessarily mean that everyone else around you has the same thoughts about things, right? We all have different opinions, different wants, different needs, and understanding those differences and working with them, working through them with your friends is important, and also encouraging, a friend to grow. I think it's very damaging, to use your word. I think it's extremely damaging to try to keep your friends where they are and try to hold them down. I think we should encourage each other, right? If everyone were to be out encouraging each other, I think we can all net benefit from each other's work and experiences.
What's one recurring lesson about personal growth that you hope readers take from these stories?
I I like to I hope that people will take from these stories that there's a lesson to be learned in almost everything. For example, let me give you a perfect example of what I'm trying to illustrate. If you've ever played blackjack, right? Blackjack is a fairly simple card game. If you ever play blackjack, there's only certain things you can do when you're dealt a certain hand, right? You can either stay on the hand, you can hit, or you can even surrender, you can double down, you can split in certain circumstances. But ultimately it comes down to two things. Do I take another card, or am I happy with what I have here? Right? However,
Yes.
there are certain hands in blackjack, no matter what you do, you will lose the hand, right? The dealer already has beaten you, whether you hit or whether you stand. There are certain hands in blackjack you cannot win. And I think that serves as a very valuable life lesson. There are certain situations in life that you just cannot win. All you can do is take the hit, take the beating, right? The proverbial beating, right? Take the loss, and then try again, right? Don't expect that every situation in life you're able to come out as on top of it. Sometimes you can't, and that's okay.
Yes, it's okay, people. How do you portray the difference between shallow friendships and those that won't stand stupid games?
I I think it's you. How would you differentiate that, right? I think it's a feeling, right? I think you know very quickly in a friendship whether this person is worth keeping around for a long time, or if it's just a single serving or like an arm's distance friendship. Also think that from what I said earlier, long lasting friendships are like kind of like, you grow a garden of flowers, right? You have to give it sun, you have to give it water, you have to make sure that the bugs stay away from it, right? So a well maintained friendship can yield you many years, many decades of fond memories, but also takes the work to put into it. And I think we have to make the decision, who are the people in our lives that we want to keep around, and who are the people that served us, or we have a good friendship for a time being, but after some time, okay, well, maybe the friendship kind of falls aside because you have grown, they've moved on, right? Different priorities. Look, the person you are today is not the person you were 5 years ago. It's not the person you were 10 years ago. And your friends should grow with time as well. So the friend that you befriended 5 years ago is probably not the friend that is today, and onto oh, sorry, the person that you know today is probably not the friend that you knew from 5 years ago, nor should they be. We should all grow, right, as we kind of progress through life, and we should all encourage each other for that growth.
Yes. We need to learn every day so that we can grow every day, people. Mr. Andy, do you think social media has amplified the kinds of stupid games people play in relationships? And how does your book reflect this?
So I don't think that my book necessarily talks much about social media, but since you asked my opinion, I'm more than happy to give it to you. I truly believe that this trend of TikTok challenges and Instagram one uppingness, I think that's done some damage to easily impressionable young people that get on these platforms, and they have to believe, or they think that they have to do these challenges to get their likes, right? Do these silly things to get their followers or get their engagement, right? There's some things that are harmless, and there's some things that I've seen online that are harmful, right? You're really putting yourself in harm's way just to get engagement for your followers, and that to me is very, very destructive. I think there are constructive and positive ways to engage people online. But I also think that online has, social media has done a lot of good things for a lot of people. But I also think there is this really negative aspect where, for example, Instagram, right? Instagram is a very curated, very cherry picked version of your life or people's lives. And I have a feeling that I get the sense that when you scroll through Instagram, all you get is those curated pictures, and it feels almost like you're missing out because you're not having those experiences. But it's not a fair comparison. You have your own experiences. You shouldn't compare yourself to the people outside of you. I think the only comparison you should make to yourself is the person you were in the past, not anyone else around you.
Very well said, Mr. Andy. Very well said. And as an author, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Yeah, so I mean, the my short to medium long term goal was just writing the thing, and I'm very happy with what the result is. And long term, I just want to get this book out to the masses. I think there is a lot of there's enough value in my stories, in my aha moments to engage most readers. Um, I've gotten nothing but positive feedback, from people who have read it. So my long term goal is to just get this book out to whoever wants to read it. And if you liked it, that's great. And you can, if you want to leave a review and say so, that's awesome. But if you didn't like it and you want to leave me a bad review, that's fine too. I'm perfectly happy with negative opinions. If you didn't like my writing, if you don't like my opinions, you just don't connect with them, that's fine. I'm not here to connect with everyone. There are going to be some people in this world who just don't like my my writing style or things I've gone through, and that's perfectly okay.
Yes, you cannot please everybody,
That's right.
people, and let it go.
Mhm.
For all those basher, let it go because most of them are they have self-pity in themselves. So
Well,
how do you
mhm,
navigate writing about secondhand embarrassment without making it unbearable for
sure.
readers?
Sure. I like to think that I none of the stories that I write have a cringe factor, right? It's very uncomfortable reading or watching someone else go through a really, really I don't know, embarrassing time, right? I want to make sure that no one feels cringy or second-hand embarrassment when they read my stories. I think my aim anyway was to make the reader appreciate the silly situations, the lessons learned from those situations. I like to put myself in a way that I can be self-deprecating in my stories, but never in a negative or ill-meaning way, right? Everything is for the most part fairly lighthearted. It's supposed to be entertainment. You're supposed to be able to read that and hopefully get a giggle out of it, maybe think about the situation, maybe learn something. But again, there are no really heavy topics that would make someone, in my opinion, turn away from wanting to read certain chapters.
What's the best piece of advice someone could take from these stories to avoid their own stupid prices, Mr. Andy?
I think the lesson or the item to be taken away from it is that life is full of experiences, and life is willing to give you those experiences, yet you have to make the effort to go out there and actually put yourself out there to make those experiences happen, right? If you want to just sit in your room and watch TV and play video games, that's fine if that makes you happy, but don't expect life to give you anything outside of that. Life will pass by very, very quickly if that's your entire day to day. And again, if that's what makes you happy, then absolutely go do that. But if you want to make experiences outside of that, you have to put yourself out there. Go make trips, go travel outside your state, go travel outside your country, make new friends, go visit new places, right? If nothing else, go join a club in your local area that you've never thought about joining before, right? I feel like those experiences are waiting for you if you just make the decision to go out there and be open and be receptive to them.
Again, very well said, Mr. Andy.
Thank
Beautifully
you,
articulated.
thank you.
Which story do you think will spark the most debate among readers about who was really in the wrong?
Okay, so let me give you one. So I I was in Southern California, stationed in at one of the bases down there when I was in my military service, and I went onto the local. They call it PX. It stands for Personal Exchange. It's basically like a store where you can buy groceries and other items, but specifically on base. And I went there buying alcohol, and I gave the young lady, the cashier girl, I gave her my Alaskan driver's license. Keep in mind, I enlisted from Alaska, so I had that driver's license when I was in Southern California. Now, you don't see very many Alaskan driver's licenses in California, much less on a military base. So as I was trying to buy alcohol from this young girl, I gave her my ID, and she goes, "Oh, Alaska." I'm like, "Yeah, that's right." And she goes, "Huh, it must be pretty warm down there." And I kind of paused for a second, and I tried to kind of figure out what you meant by what you meant by down there. And then I kind of looked at her kind of funny. I said, "What do you mean by down there?" And she goes, "Down there, it must be pretty warm." And I said to her, "Where do you think Alaska is?" And she goes, "Oh, And she explained to me that when she's watching the weather report, they have the 48 states in the main chunk or the main portion of the screen, and then down to the lower left they have Alaska and Hawaii next to each other. So in her mind, she believed that Alaska is down there next to Hawaii. And I told her, "Oh no, no, it's not. It's all the way up in the north. We're neighbors to Canada. We're between Canada and Russia, and we get -40, usually in the wintertime." And then she kind of looks at me funny. She goes, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Of course I'm sure. I lived there for 5 years. I know where Alaska is." So even though it's a funny story and we kind of laugh at it now, you can totally. I mean, I could appreciate how not appreciate, maybe that's the wrong term, but I can totally understand why she thought that, hey, she was on the impression that Alaska is down there by Hawaii. Was she wrong? Well, I mean, objectively, of course she was. Alaska is not down in the ocean next to Hawaii. But from her point of view, she wasn't too terribly wrong by believing that because that's all she ever knew about Alaska.
Indeed. So, Mr. Andy, how do you hope readers will feel after finishing the book? Entertained, reflective, or something else?
I think all the above. Again, I like to think that I have enough stories in there that make you chuckle at my mistakes, that make you kind of laugh at my mishaps. But I also think that there are a lot of very meaningful, introspective reflections that make you think about some more deeper ideas that I put forth. Right, I talk about some more serious things in the second half of the book. Um, I I like to think that the reader, when they get done with a book, are first entertained, but also are able to take away something, right? Something more meaningful from the more introspective stories.
Yes. So, would you ever expand or any other of these stories into full-length novels or a series?
Yeah, I think that my stories work the best in short story version. So the shortest story is about half a page. The longest is maybe 2 pages, 2.5 pages long. They're all short stories. They're all easily digestible. You can either read the book for 3 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So it's made in a way that it's a good travel book. You can take it with you on a plane. You can read it on a bus, and when you're done reading it, you put it down. There are very few stories that require you to invest more time than a few minutes. And I like that about it. It's short reads, short stories, and they're just little bite-sized nuggets that you can digest at your time.
Yes, indeed. Before we wrap up our discussion for today, Mr. Andy, I'm inviting you to please to listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, book 101 review in fifth season, comedy 101 in second season, food 101 in its fifth season as well, geography 101 and love letters in its third season, and my baby podcast Mental Health 101. Now, Movie 101 review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please do listen to them wherever you listen to your podcast. Mr. Andy, what's the stupidest or stupid game you ever played in your own life?
The stupidest game I've ever played in my own life. Wow, that's a pretty heavy. Um, I would like to say that life may be the stupidest game I've ever played, but no,
Indeed.
that's not a fair statement. Look, even though the book says play stupid games, win stupid prizes, I think it's more of an encapsulation of how to approach life, right? Make mistakes. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there, even if it's not in your, even if it doesn't work out in your best interest. I hope that this encourages people to go out there and make some life experiences, make some mistakes, learn from them, share them with your friends, and hopefully we can all have a good laugh about it afterwards.
Yes, indeed, people. Life is too short and enjoy and seize your day. Mr. Andy Dietrich, thank you so much for sharing your book to the world. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book itself?
Absolutely. So, as you said, Daniel, thank you for the layup on that. If you want to go on Amazon, either you can either go there and type in "Play Stupid Games, Win Stupid Prizes," or if you forgot the title, by tomorrow when you want to look it up, you can go to andysbook.com. One word, andysbook.com. There's a picture of me holding it up. You can click on the little Amazon link. You can buy it straight from there.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Andy Dietrich because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Andy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel, for having me. I appreciate it. Had a good time.
More to come, people. See you soon.